Okay. Okay. And then that light will turn green and you're good. Okay. Okay. And then that light will turn green and you're good. Okay. Okay. And then that light will turn green and you're good. Okay. Okay. And then that light will turn green and you're good. Okay.
Uh, I think Leighton's handling that. I'm pretty sure.
Are we ready? Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to see this many people here, and I'm especially glad to see 4 candidates for 3 positions. As you know, last year we didn't have that, so we're delighted with that. For people out who are not in the room now or who haven't voted, I just want to remind you, you can vote by phone. You can vote electronically if you got an email. Quite a few emails went out already, and quite a few people have already voted. You can vote by paper ballot. It was in the Lake Currents. They're available in the Holcomb building also. So please vote. We need at least 800 votes to have a quorum. And voting closes on Labor Day, September 5th. So we need them all by then. So I really encourage everybody to vote. So welcome. I appreciate your interest. I also want to welcome Bill Lord as our moderator. So he's done this for us, not this particular one, but others. So it's very helpful to have him. Thank you, Bill.
All right. Hi, everybody. I think this is going to be a very interesting afternoon. We have 4 really qualified candidates and a lot of questions. So let's get right to it. I think we'll start here with Bill K, since you're the closest. Okay. And by the way, just to give everybody an idea, the format here is we have a question that all 4 candidates will answer. We'll start with Bill K and go down the table. And then the next question will start with Leif Henneke and come back around. So everybody gets a chance to be first and last and all that. So let's get it going. Welcome, all of you. First question, Low is facing a number of potential capital improvement projects in the coming years, such as stormwater management, visitor and gate access issues, roadway maintenance and asphalt paving, and improved perimeter fencing adjacent to the parcels that are developing around us. In addition, proposals have been floated for an expansion of fairways and a new community clubs building, among others. As a board member, how would you prioritize these kinds of capital projects, and where do you see the possible funding coming from?
Before I answer the question, would you like us to introduce ourselves?
Oh, you know what? Yes, I think that would be a really good idea.
Okay.
So we sort of got a little discombobulated here at the beginning. So we'll come back to that question, and thank you for reminding me.
Okay.
So
Us Bills have to stick together.
so everybody will have 3 minutes to say a little piece.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bill Kay. I'm running for the board, as you know. My wife, Dawn, and I moved here in 2015. We bought our house at Lake of the Woods and quickly fell in love with the community and the people. In 2020, I retired. And in 2018, we both joined the Lions Club to meet more people and see how we could serve the community. In 2021, I became president of the Lions, and I just finished up my term as presidency last month. My background is I have a PhD in civil engineering. I have a 39-year career as a civil engineer, environmental engineer, and management consultant. I worked for a mid-size $100 to $150 million firm. I was on the board of that firm. I've had extensive experience on boards, not only in my own company, but also on professional and other volunteer organizations, as well as the Lions, the Connecticut Society of Civil Engineers, Environmental Professionals Organization, and the Lean Construction Institute. On the Lions, I was on 14 different committees, and I chaired 6 of those. I think my environmental and engineering background will help me to understand and take care of our infrastructure and our natural assets, and my management consulting experience and my board experience will help me to be a good board member and do what needs to be done. I've got the time. I'll put the time in. I'm committed to this position. I've got experience doing this, working on a board, and I'm looking forward to serving you all. So I hope you will consider me for a board candidate. Thank you.
All right, very good. Next is Leif Henneke, and if you'll tell us a little about yourself, sir.
Certainly. Good afternoon. My name's Leif Henneke, and I'd like to thank everyone for investing their time in our community by attending the discussion here today. My wife, Amy, and I moved down here when I retired the second time in 2019, and I became active attending committee meetings and board meetings and realized that we needed to bring more folks into the process of moving up and being able to contribute and participate on our board. I reached out during one of the committee fairs and ended up on the Lakes Committee as an alternate. At my second meeting, I became the chair of the Lakes Committee, and I'm currently the chair of our Lakes Committee. By way of background, as I mentioned, I'm twice retired. I am a retired CIO. I have run cybersecurity and information technology, as well as financial systems and procurement systems in companies up to $5 billion in revenue. I have experience as an executive in associations, nonprofits, and both civilian and defense corporations. I was a U.S. Army officer for 24 years, 12 of those on active duty and 12 of those serving here in Virginia in the Virginia Army National Guard. When we moved down here and bought into the community, it was readily apparent what good care the organization, the association, was taking care of the community. But we've seen a lot of things change in just the few short years we've been down here. And I'm sure for folks who've been here for a lot longer, you're seeing them as well. We're going to need experienced folks to help navigate the challenges that this association is going to experience as we deal with, I'll lean into Bill's first question there, several of the large capital projects that we need to undertake. We have an infrastructure that's well over 50 years. We have things that are going to start needing to be repaired. We have challenges with revenue streams that previously existed that were used to help keep down the level of our assessment. And those things are beginning to disappear. So we're going to have to look at some new and innovative ways to be able to operate our business here such that we continue to provide the quality of life and the amenities that we have all become so enamored with. So,
All right, time's up, but thank you for playing the game. So we are going to be a little tough on the time, and I hated to interrupt you, but we have a lot of questions to get through. So next we have Cliff Wilkes, who is a current board member. And Cliff, if you could tell us a little about yourself, please.
Let me see if I can do this without blasting everyone out. Is this all right? I think it is. My name's Cliff Wilkes. My wife and I have been here since 2003. At the time that we came here, I was still working for the federal government. I worked for 32 years for the Postal Service, the last 22 of those in labor and employee relations. So I got to meet with people that didn't like me all the time. And then I worked for the Patent and Trademark Office, and I met with more people that didn't like me all the time. So when I came here, I worked until 2009, and I retired then and took care of my mother before she passed. But after about a year or so, I wanted to get involved in the community. So I started work on the Rules Committee and on the Legal and Compliance Committee because those were the committees that were closest to my work background. So I thought that I knew how to manage meetings and people pretty well until I got elected president of the association. And I learned a lot since that time. So it's not about what I knew, it's about what I've learned in the interim. And I've learned to talk with people a lot better than I used to. I've learned to listen to people when they make sense. I'm not going to say that I would do what the members say all the time. It depends on what it is they say I should do. because my job is to vote for the best interest of the community at large, not for individual groups. And this is a great community to be in. To be quite honest with you, we didn't intend on moving here. I wanted to move to Fredericksburg and get on the train by walking to it. That didn't work. But this place worked, and it's a great place to be. And we want to stay here as long as we can and look forward to that, ourselves and our 4 dogs, including 3 pugs. We have a grumble. So that I'm not going to dwell on a lot about what I did or didn't do for the last several years, because really, when you're on the board, you don't do anything but vote. The board does something. So you have to learn to figure out compromises where you can. And if you can't, then you vote your conscience, and that's what you do. If I'm elected again, that's what I will continue doing. I will vote my conscience for the best interest of the community as I see it. Sometimes that'll be a prevailing vote, and sometimes it may not. But that's what I'm wanting to do, is take those actions that are the best for the community as a whole. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And our 4th candidate for the board is Vasa Olson. Vasa, if you could tell us a few things.
Just a second. Yep, I think I'm on. Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be here. I've not been a CEO of any mega corporations. I've not run a multi-million-dollar business. But I have lived here for over 30 years. My children grew up here. They were 1 and 2 when we moved to Lake of the Woods. It was a wonderful experience raising the children. The community was so different than 1991 from what it is today. There were a few families living here. There were mostly retired people who've already retired from working up north in Northern Virginia and DC. So we had a lot of challenges here. We had to drive far away to get to the grocery store. There were no activities. Amenities were here on a small scale. Today, I finally have the time after running a successful business. I am busy still working. I work not exactly for myself, but I have a flexible schedule. I learned how to negotiate, work hard, discuss, delegate over the years. I have a lot to add to the board. I don't mind fighting for the cause if I have to, if we need to. But more than that, I would like to add a balance to this community. There's a lot of disagreements. There are lots of wants and needs the community has. The people want different things. But what we really want is what is best for this community. And I think I can help. Thank you.
All right, very good, very good. Okay, so back to our favorite question. Since we started with you on the intros, why don't we go ahead and skip a slot down to address this question, and we'll get the ball rolling. I'll read it again, though. Yeah, it was a long question. Low is facing a number of potential capital improvement projects in the coming years, such as stormwater management, visitor and gate access, roadway maintenance and asphalt paving, and improved perimeter fencing adjacent to these parcels that are developing around us. In addition, proposals have been floated for an expansion of fairways and a new community clubs building, among others. As a board member, how would you prioritize these kinds of capital projects, and where would you get the possible funding from?
And so it doesn't come as any surprise. That's quite a long list. And the association is experiencing the same kind of pressures that we all are in our own personal lives from an economic perspective. For me, the things that I think are going to be the priorities are those things that deal with the safety and security of our community, first and foremost. You know, we all know that there are wrecks out there on Route 3 in front of our community all the time. We need to find a way to ensure that that's not something that occurs on a more frequent basis. The challenge with paving our infrastructure, we've got 42 miles of road, 32 of those miles are not paved. The board just received an estimate from the staff on how much that's going to cost. And it's not going to be inexpensive. It's not something that's been decided right now. They've provided information for the organization and for the board to take a look at. That's going to be a big challenge for the new board to assess and determine if it really is feasible. You know, we've got a little bit of fencing along Route 3, but it's not security fencing. It doesn't do anything to address the area that's now exposed by a Twin Lake along area 9.9 and that backside of the organization. And the estimates that we have right now aren't even close to what it's probably going to cost to do that kind of security fencing. The challenge is going to be, how do we do that without impacting our assessments? And the answer is, it's going to be a real challenge. The new construction fees are going down. No one really wants to see large bumps in their assessment. But unfortunately, we're going to have to make some hard choices about how do we balance the acquisition and the improvements of our association without driving people out. And we're going to have to look at new sources of revenue that we can generate to do that.
Okay, this is a really meaty question. Excuse me. So I am going to ask the timekeeper to put 1 more minute on the clock to give you a chance to finish up the answer to that, and everybody will get 3 minutes on this one. But again, how would you prioritize these projects and where would you see funding coming from?
You know, so for me, as I mentioned, looking at the safety and security, I think dealing with our issues around the front gate is going to be a large priority. As chair of the Lakes Committee, stormwater and lakes management is going to be a large priority. It is our largest single resource, our largest single amenity, and we need to ensure that it's going to exist for the next 25, 50 years for our children and grandchildren and great grandchildren's enjoyment. Since we're going to be losing the new construction and renovation fees as we build out, we may need to look at some other type of assessment on the transfer of property, as an example, that could be used to generate additional revenue streams for the association.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, Cliff, do you want me to read the question again?
Yes, please.
Okay. I was afraid you were going to say that. So we're facing a lot of potential capital improvement projects: stormwater management, visitor and gate access issues, roadway maintenance and asphalt paving, and improved perimeter fencing. Apparently, there are proposals being floated for an expansion of fairways and a new community center, among others. So as a board member, how would you prioritize these types of capital projects, and where do you see the funding coming from?
All funding comes from the members. That's just that simple. It can't come from some other place. It has to come from the members. Now, we have some property we could sell, but I can assure you the value of that property doesn't approach anything that would pay for any one of these projects. So what are we going to do? Let me talk about the question as it's been asked. This paving question, I cannot go with that. I think the last price we got was $10.8 million. And that's with a seal coating it. And if you're not going to seal coat that road later, then you have to use the same grade of asphalt that's used on Lakeview Parkway. And that will drive up the price even more. So I'm not behind that. If I happen to be on the board and it comes for a vote, I'm just not behind it. Unless something happens differently to convince me that we absolutely need to do that, that's where I stand on that. Fencing is another issue. As you all may know, the fellows that want to develop the area across Route 3 have put in their proffer and their plan, their rezoning request. 5 entrances off of Route 3 into that new development. No fence. They're clearing the trees. There'll be no perimeter over there. So to me, we have to look at the fencing along Route 3, but you have to balance that to some degree with this new development going up. And we don't have a study for what it would cost over there yet to build the fence. So what we have to look at, in my view, is which is coming first? The property development along Route 3 or the build out in Twin Lake? And I think that's probably going to come first. So I think we should be doing a study on what it would take to build a fence on our property that borders that. I don't know how much it'd be. I'm not even going to guess or speculate, but I do think we need to look at that. If it turns out they're going to build out quick, then perhaps we need to advance that ahead of some other projects. But it never works that way. You usually have to do a little bit of something or everything. And I am absolutely convinced that we have to do something about our stormwater management issues. Granted, we can't get to these hot spots all at one time. We don't have that kind of money. You all don't have that kind of money. But we need to find some of them that are really critical and go after them. Oh, okay. Am I done?
Yep, another 30.
Okay. So I can't prioritize all those projects because my memory doesn't last that long, but that's the way that I see what he's talked about, what he posed. Stormwater management and fencing are the things that I think we need to be looking at, and not the road. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Vasa, do I read the question again, or are you good?
No, I understand the question. I
Okay.
heard it 3 times. One of the most important issues today is how do we spend our hard-earned money as members of Lake of the Woods? Because as Bill mentioned, our assessments are fixed for everyone. Whether you own a lot, of which few left, or whether you own a $200,000 home or $2 million home, you pay same assessment. So the money that's coming in is always the same. So we have to be very smart how we spend our money. Projects are always have been here and there always will be here. The question is, which projects are most important? To me, cosmetic projects perhaps ought to be put on hold for today because of today's state of economy, inflation, cost of goods, gas, so on. We do have families. We have older people in here who are on fixed incomes. They cannot afford huge increases in HOA dues. Having said that, for me, the way I see the safety of the community and enjoyment of homeowners of their homes and their lots is the stormwater management project. That has to be at the top. We have a lot of property owners who are almost drowning, literally, every time there's a rain, especially if there is a storm, they have standing water coming down into their yards. The next issue for me is the security. Lake of the Woods has been known for security. You move into Lake of the Woods, you feel good. You feel safe, safer than anywhere else. And it's been wonderful. I have to say the security is really very important. So security contracts are going up in price. So we have to figure out how to work that into our HOA payments. I understand that HOAs will have to probably go up at least a little bit, I'm hoping. But as a board member, I promise you today that I will be watching out how we spend our money. Thank you.
All right, very good. All right, moving on. I guess we'll go to Cliff next, to Cliff Wilkes. Oh, gee whiz. You know, we need somebody who will pay attention up here.
I won't ask you to read the question again. I'll
Thank
just
you.
answer it. I agree with a lot of the things that have been said already. I think what's very important is our lakes and our safety and security. Safety and security, the things that are on the table now, are the front gate. That's an accident waiting to be happened with the stacking problem that we have there. We've done an initial study with our consultant, and we've got 3 options they brought back on the table preliminarily. They go from a couple $100,000 to $1.8 million. $1.8 million is not what we're going to spend. We have to find an effective way to solve the problem at the front gate. And I think that our consultants, and I have complete faith in our consultant and our ad hoc committee that they can do that. The other security issue, as everyone's mentioned, is the security fencing. We have two areas. We have we're on Route 3 across from the Wilderness Crossing development that's going to come up. Could possibly be developed. It's just been submitted, the application to the county, and it's got a long process to go through to get the rezoning. So the question is, if that goes through, do we need additional security around Route 2, 3, and what will it cost? The other issue is along Twin Lakes, where that is currently under development. And is that a security issue? We need to find out if that is a security issue. And if it is, what is the best way of doing it? As far as lakes, the lakes are concerned, we moved here because I think many people moved here because it's Lake of the Woods, because of the lakes, and also because it's a gated community. So security is very important, but the lakes are very important. And the thing that keeps the lakes in as a high quality lake is the stormwater management that we do. We have a plethora of stormwater projects that need to be done. And the board is doing a great job of getting a number of committees right now involved in evaluating the 123 stormwater issues that have been identified and prioritizing those, because we need to identify where do we get the most bang for our buck to stop having to prevent or to minimize the sediments going into the lake, to minimize the nutrients washing into the lakes when we have flooding across people's lawns. So that's important. We also need to increase our revenue stream. We need to change our revenue stream. It is going to change. So how else can we increase that? Right now, we're looking at our golf courses doing very well and making more money. Is there a way that our clubhouse could make more money? Are there other revenue streams? And also, my experience as a management consultant was helping my clients do things faster, better, and cheaper. And I hope to bring that to the board as well. Done.
All right. And again, my apologies. I forgot that we had skipped to move down, but good answer. So, Mr. Wilkes, there's been a proposal to use an automated system at the front gate at night to replace and remove the gate guard. So it would be just a totally automated system. I think between midnight and 6 or something like that, after midnight. What do you see as the pros and cons or the risks of this change?
Unfortunately for me, I like technology. I think from a financial perspective, it makes good sense to try that system at the front gate. However, I've been at this community long enough to know that there are people here that simply don't like automation. They don't like computers. One of the biggest problems we have is that not older people, but younger people won't use tech control. 10% of the community here uses tech control. You know, if everyone used it, or even 80 or 90%, we probably wouldn't have these issues. I really don't think that that kind of system at the front gate is going to get a lot of traction. Because the idea would be that they still have the 2 patrol officers on patrol. If someone gets to that gate and they have trouble either getting the person they're going to see to press the button to let them in, then they're going to call the security officers and they're going to come and let them in anyway. So either way, security is going to be involved. And I really don't want to see our security officers that are on the road being distracted by essentially being openers of the front gate. So why I think it's a good idea by itself, I don't think it's going to be a good idea for this community, even though it saves about $60,000 a year. And that's a good thing to save that money. But to save it, people are going to have to roll up to that gate and be willing to use it. And I'm not convinced that people will be. Thank you.
All right, very good. So Vasa, again, it's been proposed that we use an automated system after midnight and eliminate the gate guards. What do you see as the pros and the cons and the risks as well?
Well, I believe that a system like this is probably needed here. I think once we get out Lake of the Woods, we go to Fredericksburg, Stafford, different communities. Most communities are now gated communities, are equipped with those systems. Especially a lot of 55 plus communities have those gates. So I think it's time. Well, it will take a little time for all of us to learn it. It's definitely going to save us money. And if we're all, as a community, going to try to save some money, this may be the first step. As far as us learning how to use the system, well, it's going to be a learning curve, but I believe we can do it. We should probably offer, I'm not really sure that this is something that we have to think through a little better, how we will introduce our community and guests to the new system. But I believe we can learn. We've learned everything else in the past 10, 15 years. We can learn this system as well. Again, the security is there. They're not on the gate, which is going to save us almost $70,000 a year, but they will be around patrolling should there are needed, should there be a problem at the gate. Thank you.
You've actually got another 30 seconds if you have more to
I
add.
have another 30 seconds. So I think if I have to cast a vote, I'm for the system.
All right, very good. Bill, do you want to talk about the pros and cons or the potential risks of this plan?
Yes, I would love to. First, let me say, the people that live here, we moved here because it's a gated community, so security is important. However, let me explain how the system's going to work a little bit. Let me explain how the system's going to work a little bit. We've got friends in North Carolina that have this system. It's very simple. You drive up to the pad and every household would have a 4-digit code that was linked to a phone. You put in that 4-digit phone call, the 4-digit number, and that person's phone rings. They hit 9 or star and the gate opens up. So that the person that you're visiting opens up. What we're talking about here is from midnight to 6. We're talking about on average 3 visitors show up at the front gate at Lake of the Woods. So we're looking at having a person sitting there or standing there all night long to let 3 people in. Okay. If we were to put this system in, which will cost around $50,000 to $60,000, I understand, then we're looking at saving $60,000 in labor every year, year after year. Okay. So, and if they punch in the 4-digit code and they don't get the person, then they can punch in another code to get one of the security officers that are driving around, and they can call them on the speaker and find out, and they can remotely let them in. So I think the $60,000 in savings, which would start in the second year, it would be well worth it. I think I would support it. I think it's a great idea. Our security contract will probably increase 100,000 or more. And if we could take 60,000 out of that by putting this system in, I think that's the smart thing to do. But we're going to have to do some education to explain to the people what exactly we're getting and why we're doing that. Done.
All right, very good. Thank you. And Leif Henneke, if you could expound upon this as well, please.
I'm not really sure there's too much more that I can expand on, but I'll give it a shot. You know, as a technologist, you know, a system like this makes sense to me. I think one of the ways that we're going to have to look not just at this project, but at other projects, and this kind of dovetails into the first question. Labor costs are only going to go up here in Virginia, especially for the salary ranges that we will be paying for people who are providing some of our base operational support services. So if we can look to find ways where we can use technology to eliminate labor resource costs and even if we were willing to pay, in many cases, we can't get the people to work. We're outcompeted by, local and neighboring businesses. So for me, it makes sense where we can to put technology to use over physical labor. And as it's been referenced, tech control, the system works well. We just don't have enough people using it. And if you talk to the security folks, they have 2 people in the shack every day. One of those people spends the majority of their time, or whichever one is, because they switch off, answering the phone, and not an awful lot else. They're dispatching the road, the patrol officers, but the majority of their time is spent answering the phone. That labor could be used in other ways if we had more people using tech control. So from my perspective, I'm supportive of us taking a look at how to integrate this, because we also need to integrate it with whatever our solution is going to be for the front gate redesign. And a lot of the installation of this type of system, it already integrates with the tech control system we have. Our own buildings and grounds people can install the vast majority of it, and it can be moved around if we need to.
All right, very good. Okay, I think everybody's had a chance at that one. So here's another one that's sort of long, but once we get to the end, it's actually a focused, it just needs a focused response, I think. LOA has a fixed amount of association property, right? LOA has a very fixed amount of association property. Some of it's, this is not written very well. So we're talking about open space like parks and beaches, the golf course, utility space like the mail stations and 9.9. Looking forward, many members have argued the need for more beach capacity, for more recreational spaces like pickleball courts and soccer fields, more marina rental slips, and for more community center and club facilities, and for more golf associated spaces like a driving range and more outdoor dining space at fairways. So without getting bogged down on the individual things that are being mentioned here, what is your view on how LOA should evaluate these perceived needs and best use the association property available? We don't have much property, but how could we best use it to create some more of these facilities that people are asking for? And yeah, Vasa, I think that's you, right? I believe so, yeah.
Oh, okay. That's a long question. Let's see if I can answer some of the questions in the long question. How do we maximize or utilize the amenities that are already here? Was that the question?
Well, people have been asking for more pickleball courts, more soccer fields, more marina
Which we
rental.
already have, so they want a bigger in size, or is that the question?
Yes.
I think what they mean
So how would you evaluate those needs
okay,
and then find the best way to use the available property that we have?
okay. Well, traditionally, for instance, the lake, we have 2 marinas in Liquidated Woods, the main marina and a smaller marina. And starting years ago, there had not been enough spots for the boats to park. For people who do not live on the lake, they can rent a boat slip. We've been running out of that space for a long time. There's a waiting list, always has been, and I'm sure it still is. So that's one problem we probably have to look at some point. This question may have come up in the past. I have not myself had to deal with it or even look at it before. As far as our facilities such as tennis and pickleball, I understand I know we have a beautiful facility for tennis and pickleball now, that courts that are being resurfaced now to a tune of several thousands of dollars, which will be absolutely fantastic. So members, please come and enjoy the courts, the facilities. Restaurants, we have two fantastic restaurants here. We have the Clubhouse that really needs more attendees or diners. We have a wonderful lounge. Please come and enjoy the facilities. So I don't see an expansion there. Fairways Cafe, a wonderful place. Don't see an expansion there. Horse Stables, a wonderful place. So I'm not really sure, other than the water, the lake and the boat storage facility, I'm not sure where else we need to expand. Thank you.
Excuse me. So Bill, just a reminder, we're talking about recreational spaces, golf associated spaces like a driving range, more outdoor dining at fairways. Where do we find this land, and how do we prioritize these perceived needs? Or evaluate, I should say. I'm sorry.
Yes, I think it's important to find out what is the highest and best use of the land that we have. Are there areas where you look at multi-use of areas? Can we have pickleball courts that are on tennis courts? So when you're not, sorry, if I'm not a pickleball player, but if you're not playing tennis, can you play pickleball on it? Okay. Are there other areas where we could combine services, where we could combine uses that we have? Are there new technologies that we could use? Does it have to be a conventional driving range like we have out the back gate across the street? Or can we have an electronic driving range? And will that satisfy some of our need? Are there other ways that we can provide these services? Also, we've got the compactor and the recycling, and there was talk of moving that. If that moves, does that give us more space? But I think we need to look at multi-use of our services, and are we using the different spaces that we have for the highest and best use for all of them, for all of the members. So I think it's a matter of evaluating it, combining it, and looking at different ways. I think we have to think outside the box. We're not going to get any more space than we already have. Maybe the marinas could use a redesign of the marinas, and we could get more slips into the marinas if we had a redesign of what we have. I'll wave my last 30 seconds and pass it over to Cliff, to Leif.
Leif, should I reiterate anything, or are we good here? Yeah, okay.
There we go. So some of you may know, and some of you may not, the Planning Committee conducts a land use study here of LOA on a frequent basis, and there's one going on currently. Folks may also not know that LOA actually owns a fairly significant amount of undeveloped land that is adjacent to the backside of Area 9.9 and some other parcels that the association currently owns today. So there is raw land available for expansion. That, of course, will come with a price. We need to develop roads, utilities, et cetera. But there is land available that can be looked at in out years to determine how that can be best used for additional amenities, those types of things. On the Lakes Committee, we do an annual assessment of everything that the association operates that touches the lakes. So we're intimately familiar with the challenges that we have in the two marinas and the issues with the amount of dockage we have, the wait lists, challenges with the main marina's layout such that there are slips that aren't rented because you can't fit a boat into them because of the way the dockage was put in. So we've recommended that, that be taken a look at. As the Lakes Committee provided input to the Planning Committee on the land use study, we're looking at, providing, or we've provided them recommendations on things that they can do. But, as Bill mentioned, the Golf Committee is looking at putting in at least one, if not two simulators in the Wood Center that would allow us to provide additional amenities. So there are a number of things that we can do with what we have. We need to look at sites for a potential third marina, and maybe that's somewhere over near the current sail beach. So there are options.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. All right, so I think we are coming back around. Oh, that's right. You did not, Cliff. I'm sorry. I can't keep up with my own darn notes here.
Thank you.
Getting ahead of myself.
We do own some property not directly connected to Lake of the Woods. It's called the Goodwin Leach properties. And it is not, I don't have a compass in my head, but I think it's slightly northeast or northwest of 9.9. However, there is no road to that property. And the only road that has the potential of getting to it is called Pepe's Lane, and it would have to be rezoned and developed to even get into that. This was looked at several years ago when they talked about putting the equestrian center on that property. But it's heavily wooded. So if you want to clear that, get out your pocketbook or your wallet, because it's going to be a lot of money to clear it. We really don't have a lot of space that we can expand into with newer or bigger things. But that lets us know that what we need to be doing is looking for opportunities to buy more property when we can. I don't know the cost of it. We always have to look at that. But you know, at one point we had the opportunity to buy the farm out of the back gate and we passed up on it. Another point, we had an opportunity to buy Meadows Farms and we passed up on that. If we want to really expand Lake of the Woods, we're going to have to look at buying property nearby. And, you know, that's something you have to take as it comes along or not. So there's a lot of competing interests on expanding things. I know the pickleball folks want a building. They want a building the size of this for pickleball. Well, that would be nice, but I don't know where we're going to get the room for that. Unless we want to start taking things like the baseball fields or the soccer fields and the rest of it. And I don't think we want to do that, you know, for the members, and especially the members that have kids that use that. So that's all I can say in that amount of time. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So this is a very interesting question. If you were elected to the board of directors, are you more likely to favor improving our amenities or keeping the annual assessment as low as possible? Now, they've put a sort of hypothetical here. If 40 members commented at a board meeting asking that the assessment not be increased for the coming year, but our hired experts advised that more must be spent to keep an existing amenity safe and usable, or much more will be required in the future years, which path would you vote for and why?
Well, I'm all for keeping the assessment down as much as possible, but we also need to maintain the infrastructure we have. We have to maintain the quality of the lake. We have to maintain our security. So it's a balance, okay? I'm sure you could find more than 40 members who would say that they want to reduce the assessment, okay? But do they want to have our infrastructure deteriorating? We have, I mentioned before, 123 stormwater issues around the lake. People also don't want to have their yards flooded out, and we don't want to have the quality of the lake go down. That's not going to help anybody's property values. So it's a balance. And I think on the board, our responsibility, the board's responsibility is to identify what is the best needs for the community. What is I always use the Moscow evaluation when you're looking at things. What must you have? What could you have? What should you have? What won't you have? Okay. There's a lot of things that would be nice to do, but there's also things that we must do. So we need to do the evaluation and determine that. And that's where we have to spend our money.
All right, thank you.
So as a member of the board, each board member has a fiduciary responsibility to the members of the association to operate and maintain the properties that the association is in possession of. That's not always an easy task for previous boards, and it's not going to be an easy task for board that's going to be seated in September. There are, as you've heard already, a multitude of competing priorities. I understand the need to maintain our assessments as affordable as we can. At the same time, we have a responsibility to all of the members to ensure that the association's properties and the amenities function at a level that continue to enhance our property values as a collective association. Nobody likes to make hard decisions, and hard decisions are going to have to be made. And unfortunately, the likelihood that we will have to undertake funding initiatives similar to what we did for the CARC project is more likely going to be the norm than not. And, you know, we were not here at the time. We came here about the time that was wrapping up, but we've heard that there was a lot of controversy around getting that project started. What I don't think I've heard since then is a lot of controversy about how well it turned out and how much it's added to our community and the enjoyment of our members and their families and guests when they come down here to spend time with folks who live here. So it's a tough call. My job as a board member is going to be to make those calls and do what I believe is in the best interest of all the members.
Very good. Cliff?
I'm intimately familiar with the CARC project because I was the chair of the ad hoc committee that came up with the plans and came up with the conceptual suggestions as to what ought to happen with it. And that has turned out to be a very worthy project. This question of assessment versus amenities comes up in every board. It came up when I first ran in 2017. And there is no easy answer for it. People will say, well, can you reduce the assessment? Well, sure we can, but there's a price for that. That's reduced services. That's reduced, amenities that you can use many times, and balance is the key. And who defines what the balance is? There are groups that will say balance is always a lower assessment. There may be groups that say there is no balance, full tilt to anything that you need to build. I believe in balance, but balance usually means, especially in this day and age, that the assessment is going to continue going up for a while. Maybe small amounts, maybe big amounts. It just depends on what it is that has to be done. We have a Miller-Dodson report that tells us what to replace over a 40-year span. Those are projects that we do for maintenance of the community. Then we have a capital spending plan for new things. There is some leeway there that you can maybe make some balance. Am I done? Okay, thank you. I'll figure that out in a minute. So I believe in balance also, but just real quick, people used to call me supervisor and say, so-and-so did A, B, C, and D. Can I fire them now? But they never told me about E, F, G, and H. So when you ask me, can I vote for reducing the assessment? I don't have enough to make that kind of decision here.
Very good. All right, if Vasa Olsen, if you will expand a little bit.
Yes. So in the past 60 days, I had the opportunity and the privilege to sit in on all of our 21 committees. And what a classroom, I tell you. I've learned so much. The enormous amount of work goes on behind the closed doors or open doors. Actually, they're open doors, so please, everyone come in and listen in. Is amazing. I've learned so much. The finance committee, the M&E, the planning, and there's 21, as I said. I've also learned a lot that prices are going up. Our security contract is going up. When it expires next April, it's going to go up about $60,000, between 60 and 70. We have to look at that. Labor is up. If we want to keep quality workforce here, we have to pay them so they don't leave to other communities. So yes, the prices are going up of goods, gas, everything else, and our assessments, unfortunately, will probably go up again. Where we can make the difference is to closely watch which projects are we approving and disapproving, which projects we're putting down the road, perhaps take a second look, maybe a year or two or three or four, what is most important today and what can wait until tomorrow. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to switch this up just a little bit instead of getting into amenities and assessments and, all of that. There are some people who have been in business here, but regardless, the question is, please explain your experience in managing contracts. Tell us the process that you used to approve the contract, and if the contract wasn't being followed, how did you apply any liquidated damages or processes to bring them back into line with the contract? And I believe we are starting with Leif.
As a corporate executive, I've spent a lot of years managing contracts, starting out from, small contracts that are, few thousands of dollars, up to contracts in excess of $100 million. And the challenge with contracts is making sure that they're well-written, that everyone understands what their requirements are, that you have a mechanism in place to be able to evaluate the performance of the contract, the vendor that's providing it, the quality of the services and the goods that are being provided, and that the contract is written in such a way that you have remedies should you have issues with contractor performance, delivery, schedule, scope creep, those types of things. And, my contract experiences from, goods and services to high-end professional consulting in both the technology and the finance world. So I know it's, sometimes folks cringe a little bit when you hear the words, getting the lawyers involved, but you really do have to have legal assistance. You need to have people who are experienced in how to write and negotiate contracts. And if you're trying to do all that by yourself without the appropriate subject matter experts, you're not going to get the best product, and your chances are you're not going to have the best delivery that you could if you, availed yourselves of legal and contractual support in order to generate the documents. Anyone who's ever had to deliver on a contract, for me, has not particularly enjoyed the process. I expect to get what I pay for, and I'm going to hold people accountable to do that.
All right, very good. Cliff, can you share your thoughts?
In my working life, I did not have to manage contracts for people to produce goods and services. I manage contracts about people's employment behavior and things like that. And in Lake of the Woods, the general manager manages contracts. The board oversees that. The board does not manage a contract unless the general manager brings something to the board that says, we need to terminate this, or we need to terminate that, or do something different. Well, I'm familiar with that. And there's a process for it here. The general manager and his staff will prepare an assessment of how a contract is being performed. And if need be, they will bring that to the board for a decision. That's how that works, and that's my experience with it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And Vasa?
I've been dealing with contracts for the last 31 years in my business, and contracts are agreements, legal agreements, and they're binding. You make a promise for an exchange for service, and the dates are important. And the service, type of service is important, the timing and the execution. And that applies to work, that applies to even us as residents of Lakewood Woods. When we receive our documents, HOA documents, we sign a contract stating that we promise to take care of our properties in the community. Thank you.
All right, and thank you. I won't forget you this time, Bill Kay.
I do understand, as Cliff says, that the board doesn't manage the contracts. It's the general manager that manages the contracts. But I've had experience with managing contracts through my career in civil engineering. And what's important is to have as Leif said, a well-written contract. You want to make sure you have insurance, surety, bonding, and liquidated damages, that if you need to have those in there, that you have it in there. But what's important is how you execute the contract. I spent a number of years, and I was on the board of the Lean Construction Institute, which looks at how we manage construction projects. There's a lot of tools that are used to improve the management of projects, and to see, but one of the major components is communication, is them understanding your expectation, you understanding their expectations of you, setting milestones, and monitoring the work and making sure that you're hitting those milestones, projecting that you'll hit them, and making adjustments as needed. So it goes a lot into communication and having the right tools and having a good contract to start with. And I would imagine that we have that in place. It's just a matter of making sure that it's executed. And if it's not in place, it needs to be put there. Done.
All right, very good. All right, I don't think anybody is going to need 2 minutes to answer this question, but it's an important question. We want board members who vote with all Low residents' best interests in mind. Do you or a spouse have any business interests in Low in which residents are customers? Oh, and yes, we're starting with Cliff. I'm sorry. What this question is asking is there a potential conflict of interest is really what this is about.
Thank you. You took the rephrasing right out of my mouth. So let me tell you, the only possible conflict of interest is that my wife is in Cause for Paws, which is a cat rescue organization. Now you need to understand that I'm the manual labor for that. That's the only thing I do is I set up tents, I help them with stuff, I take her to her craft fair so she can sell stuff for the cats. I don't have any other business interest here that would be a conflict of interest for me. And if they ask me to make a decision about cats, my decision is I really don't want one in the house. All right. But you need to understand that I could be overruled on that. My wife is sitting back there, so I'm going to have to be careful how I answer.
She's taking notes too, by the way.
Thank you.
Vasa?
Yes, I wish I didn't have to say it. This is not a promoting hour for my business. I've sold real estate here for 31 years. Conflict, I'm not sure how. I think it's a benefit. My knowledge is extensive of land, rules, people who move in, people who move out. I have a lot of experience in building, construction, negotiation. So if anything, I think I will be a great addition with my experience to the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Bill?
I'm happy to say that I have no business interests at all. I retired and I walked away completely. My other interest is with the Lions, serving the community. The Lions have 35 committees that serve the community as opposed to the Lake of the Woods Association, which have 24 committees. So I think we have you outnumbered. But I'm here to serve the committee. I've served the committee on the Lions and I will continue. And I'm here to serve the committee on the board as well. Thank you.
And Leif.
As I mentioned earlier, I am twice retired. I do not have any business interest, nor do my family have any business interest here in Lake of the Woods. Were I to have business interests here in Lake of the Woods that could possibly be influenced by my position on the board in ruling on bylaws, procedures, policies, and regulations, I would not be running for the board because I believe that is a conflict of interest.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, Vasa. There's been a lot of discussion recently and concern regarding wake surfing and the use of wake-enhanced boats on the lake. In fact, there's a town hall meeting on October 31st dedicated to this subject. Oh, did I say September? Yeah, sorry, August 31st. What is your position on the operation of these type of watercraft here at Lake of the Woods?
Well, I'm looking forward to the town hall. My children grew up on the lake. They use jet ski, boats, water ski, jet ski. We pull them around in a tube. There's new sports are coming into our lake now, and I don't have enough information yet. I will need a lot more study. Perhaps a specialist come in and talk to us and to the community, because it really includes safety of everyone, insurance, you name it. It's everything. So we need to know more. At this point, I'm not ready to make that statement.
All right, very good. Thank you. Bill, do you have a position on that?
Yes. Our lakes are a certain size. They can accommodate certain things. They can't accommodate certain things. For example, we don't let seaplanes land on our lake. As far as lake wakeboarding is concerned, I'm not familiar personally with it. I haven't done it yet. I don't know if it's appropriate for our lake. I agree with Vasa. I know that the board is undergoing a study with their AMT and AMT's consultant on whether wakeboarding is appropriate for our lake. If it is, I would support it. If it's not, and it proves that it's not appropriate for our lake, then our consultant shows us that data, then I would have to support not approving it. So I think there's more information that we need to collect. As Vasa said, I agree, before we can make that decision. We don't have enough data. And I agree with what the board did, putting a moratorium on it until we can get more data and find out, is it appropriate to do wakeboarding in our lake or a portion of our lake? We all want to enjoy it.
All right, very good. Leif.
Well, as you can imagine, in the Lakes Committee, this has been a hot topic for some period of time. As has been mentioned, with the Lakes Committee in support of the board, the wakeboat moratorium was put in place, and AMT had been selected with a sub-engineering firm to perform a study and look at the impacts of high energy waves here on the main lake. The challenge that we have is we're 500 acres. If you go out and read a lot of the research that exists today on lakes much larger, Deep Creek, one, Smith Mountain, another one, two that are relatively close by, they're larger and their communities are very concerned with the issues of wake sports on their lakes and the negative impact that it's having to shoreline, aquatic plant life, fisheries, sedimentation, you name it. I think that the moratorium is a good opportunity for us to get the right information here to be able to make a decision. Just from a common sense perspective, when there are lakes all around the country, all over North America, up in Canada, you name it, that are larger than ours, and they're wrestling with this problem, and we have a small lake, I'm concerned that we have a problem. And I'm very much looking forward to the information that we're going to get from the engineering firm. When we updated the lakes regs here recently, we took a stand and identified new technologies that we don't necessarily want to allow on our lake to begin with. There's only so much room. There's only so many things that we can accommodate, and we need to make sound decisions on what those devices are going to be going forward in the future.
All right, very good. And Cliff, you get a shot at this one too.
Thank you. I have no experience operating a boat on this lake. I have operated a boat on Deep Creek Lake many years ago when I was actually trying to fish. And I have some experience being on a boat in a big lake up in New York called Lake Chautauqua. So, and I have looked up myself some of these studies that Leif is referring to. And he's right. I mean, many of these studies, that there are people that have 13,000 acre lakes that are concerned about this. So I really want to hear what our study produces. We really can't say today, oh yes, I don't want that here. I don't want it here if the study supports saying that we shouldn't have it here. But you have to be realistic about some of this. In that sense, if you already have a boat like that and you own it here, it's more likely true than not that you're not going to be told to take the boat away. You may not even be told not to use it. What may happen is we won't allow any future boats to operate or register here. So keep that in mind, because a lot of people equate this study about wake boats with us trying to say, we have to take your boat and go out somewhere else with it. Not necessarily. What we need is a study first, then a decision, and then we figure out what to do with any boats that are left here, presuming that decision is to get rid of them or, stop their operation on the lake. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.
Very good. Okay, now this has already been addressed to some degree by one of our candidates already, but let's throw it out to everybody, and we'll start with you, Bill. On July 20, LOA staff reported to the board that after conducting a review requested by the board, it estimated that a conversion of LOA's 32 miles of chip and tar roads to asphalt would require that the annual assessment would need to be increased approximately $127 per year for 20 years. I don't know the accuracy of these numbers. I'm just reading the question. And if you have some clarifications on those, please, feel free. But the new board will consider the analysis, project priorities and next steps at their September retreat, and management will further fine-tune costs and saving assumptions. As a new board member or an existing, would you vote to terminate consideration of a conversion program because of the cost? Or would you vote to consider the proposal further despite the cost?
Yes, $10 million is a big number. There's, as I used the word before, there are a plethora of things that we need to do. And is this a must, or is this a could, if we could? We need to look at all of our stormwater management issues that need to be addressed. We need to look at the cost of the final fix for the front gate. Can we do the front gate without a third gate? I hope that's possible. Are we going to have costs with associated with security fences in the future? And we have all the things that are already identified in Miller Dobson that we need to repair. There's $2 million every year that we repair or replace items, and doing all that with maintaining financial stability. Okay. And trying to keep the assessment down. It will increase, but trying to keep that increase down. So I think the board is going to have to look, is this something that is strongly wanted by a majority of the members. And is it a security issue? I don't see it as a security issue. Some have said that the chip getting into the culverts and the ditches causes additional flooding, and is an impact on the lake. Yes, it probably has an impact on the lake, but we need to look at, is this something that we really need to do? Or is it more important to deal with the other issues that we have? It would be very difficult, I think, for me to persuade me that this is something that we need to do, but I want to look at the data and compare it to the other things that are identified. Thank you.
All right, Leif.
So we've already talked about a number of large scale projects that are under consideration by the board. If I'm elected and I'm sitting on the board, I'm going to be looking at more of a blended approach. I don't think that we're going to be able to just go out and say, all right, we're going to do the entire asphalt conversion project. We're going to be able to do the entire stormwater management, which is a portfolio of, 20 major projects over about 20 years to the tune of about $20 million. So it's kind of easy to remember the metrics there. As Bill pointed out, one of the reasons that our ditches don't work in many cases is because they fill up with the chips after they don't stick to the tar. So we spend a lot of money cleaning out ditches and cleaning out culverts every year. This past year, or within the past year or two, the chip and tar program was finally put into the reserve. So it's now part of what we reserve for. So there are trade-offs, and many of you who may have been at or listened to the last board meeting heard our finance director talk about the pros and cons. If we don't do chip and tar, there's some savings. If we don't do the labor, there's some savings. If we don't have the equipment, there's some savings. If we buy the asphalt, there's an expense. If we have to put sealer on the asphalt every 5 or 10 years, there's an expense that has to go into the reserve. So the bottom line is, the way it currently looks as a large portfolio, it would be about $127 a year for every lot for 20 years. And that's a big number. Do we need to do all of that at one time? No, because if we're spending that kind of money, then maybe we're not spending on stormwater. So I think we're going to have to take a balanced approach and look at selected opportunities. I think we're going to have to do asphalt paving in a phased approach and work it in that way, as we work in projects for stormwater management and we work on refurbishing buildings and those types of things.
Thank you. And Cliff, if you could share your thoughts, please.
No. It's simple to me. No. A few years ago, it wasn't a hue and cry, but a few years ago, there was sort of some rumblings about asphalting all the roads, but I haven't heard those for years. And to me, it's a want. It's not a need. Now, are there some roads or cul-de-sacs that could stand to be asphalted? Well, maybe, but those are a case-by-case basis. And if we have asphalt work going on already, and they happen to be near a place where our people say we ought to have asphalt there, well, we can think about that. But to do a grandiose project where we're going to do 32 miles of asphalt in here, and I'm not sure with the plan we were given that I would even agree with that plan, because I think they're just overlaying asphalt on the chip and tar. And that's not the way you're supposed to do a road. So the answer to me, the short answer is no. Now, if something changes, if it's incremental, if it's spotted here and there, I can look at that. But for this big project, my answer is no. That's simple. And I'm sticking with that.
Okay. And Vasa.
Well, that is exactly a $10 million question. So it would be a loan for us. Would it be nice? Oh, would we look like Fawn Lake? Well, maybe a little. Some of our roads may, but it's very expensive. The loan we would have to take will be over 20 years, depending on the interest rates. Our payments, as has been mentioned before, could be close to $200 a month. So somebody somehow, and it would be us, will have to pay for it. Now, should this project be looked at today? Perhaps a discussion. Perhaps this is a good discussion to have or to start talking about. Can we afford to have this project done within the next year or two? I would say, no, we cannot. Again, I go back to the economical situation we're in right now as a country with the expenses. And I would say, if I had to vote for it today, I would vote it down. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Leif, if you were elected to the board, what is the one thing that you will bring to the board that you think is a real value add in representing the interests of our members?
I'm not afraid to make tough decisions. I've never had a job where things were easy. I've never walked into a job where somebody'd already done all the work and all I had to do was sit back, put my feet up on the desk and relax and coast along. I've always been the guy who came in after the elephant or the bull had been running around in the room for a while and things are broken and smelly stuff was deposited on the floors and things had to get put back in order. And that's been the nature of my career, both in the military and on the civilian side. And I've been very successful at that. It doesn't always make you popular, but somebody's got to do it. And there are going to be some hard decisions that we have to make around how we're going to operate our business going forward and taking care of our members and maintaining the value in our properties and our association. So for me, I don't mind being put in a position where I've got to make a tough decision. And if I make it, I'll own it. And any one of you can come up and ask me why I did what I did and tell me whether you like it or not. And it won't hurt my feelings.
All right, thank you very much. So Cliff, what value add would you bring to the membership?
I'm not sure what you're asking me, Bill. What's the question?
Well, if there's one specific thing that you bring that's more than just being a great guy and, a great pickleball player and, I mean,
Okay.
just something that
I got
really will bring some added value to your work on the board.
I'm not afraid to make tough decisions either. I've made them all through my career. I was in many cases had the person that had to write charges to remove people, and then I had to go to court and defend those. And I'm not a lawyer, so if there's a lawyer here, don't get upset about that. But I had to go and represent the agency I work for in administrative proceedings, just like a lawyer. So I'm not afraid to make tough decisions either. And that also included bringing people back to work when the manager threatened to kill me if I did just exactly that. I can cut through things pretty well and come to the decision that I need to make when it comes to voting for this community. I can do it. I've been doing it since 2017. If you all reelect me, I'll do it till 2025, I think. So at any rate, that's the value I bring. I'm sort of like Leif, but I don't have his experience. It's different. Thank you.
And thank you. Vasa?
Oh, I hear all this tough guys, how they're so, ready to just cut the cord and be done with it all, make a decision. I have that in me as well. I accept that I'm more of a balance. I have more perhaps gentle approach to decision making. But decisions I do know how to make, and I make them every day. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are back to Leif. Oh, gosh. I'm keeping notes here and I still missed it. My God. I'm like, check. Oh God, it's Bill K. Sorry, man.
What I bring to the board is being able to follow the rules. in the instructions. No, actually, what I bring to what I think the one thing that I bring to the board is my experience. My experience as an engineer, a registered professional engineer, my experience as an environmental engineer, understanding the environmental issues, my experience in management consulting, being able to bring teams together and find consensus and solving problems. My wife says I'm an overachiever. I research things to death and then then I make a decision. So I need to understand it. I need to research it, and I have no problem making a decision and explaining why I made that decision and standing by it. And if you could prove me wrong, I'll say when I'm wrong. Doesn't happen too often, but I'll tell you when I'll have. I'm done. Go on.
Okay, thank you very much. So I think Cliff is up. So Cliff, would you describe your involvement on low committees or clubs, AARP, the vets, the arts, whatever, how long you have been a member and how you have contributed to their work?
Okay, well, I was the president of the National Active and Retired Federal Employees Chapter that was here, but no one would take the job over, so I had to close it, all right? So I have been involved with that. I'm involved with helping my wife corral cats as much as I can. And I've been involved extensively with committees and the board. Anywhere from being the president of the board and managing the work that we had to do. And again, I don't take any credit for that. It took 4 people voting in favor of something to get it done. But I helped with that process. I believed in following the rules of the meeting so that when you have a meeting, it's for the purpose of the business of that meeting. And some people think that I follow that rule too closely, but that's what you all want us to do, I think. You want us to meet and make decisions. That's what I've done since 2017. I voted, I show up. If you count the number of board meetings that I've missed, it'll be on one hand. I even participate when I'm on vacation via Zoom. I show up, I vote. I've been involved with things here, committees and ad hoc groups and the general managers working groups to revise Section 14. So I've had extensive experience here, so much that I forget half of it. All right. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to ask you a follow-up on that. What insights have these activities given you that may help you as a board member?
Well, I'll say this. The insights that I get are from listening to properly functioning committees do their work. I really enjoy I tell you, I've been to the M&E committee meeting and of course the planning committee meeting and finance. Those are really an ECC. I can't leave them out because I'm liaison to them. The people on those committees are really smart, really experienced in the things that this community needs. And the insights that I get are from listening to them and taking the points that they made. And that better than anything else, it helps me figure out how I'm going to vote. When I listen to people that know what they're talking about, talk to me about it. Don't rant at me. Don't yell at me. Just talk to me about it. And that's really all it takes. I'm not big on listening to ranting. Right? There was a gavel at meetings that I used to use for rants. But if you talk to me, you know what you're talking about, I'll listen. And I'll do the things that you suggest when they make sense for the entire community. And those are the insights that I got, is listening, or I get every day, listening to people that know what they're talking about. Telling the board, recommending, we think you should do this and do it this way. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. And those kind of insights are what make this community great.
All right, very good. Thank you. So Vasa, if you could just sort of discuss some of your committee or work with clubs in the low community, and discuss how long you've been a member and how you've contributed to the work.
So I was very busy, clearly raising my children and working. Years ago, this is really truly is the time where I recently, within the last few years, I feel like I'm now gained the knowledge, experience, and true love for the community where I plan on taking my last breath to give it all back, give it back to the community. I've been a part of clubhouse and pool committees. I am currently on garden club. I'm very active in the garden club. We do all kinds of community events and community things. Please look us up and join us. I've started a walking club. Perhaps some of you know and familiar with it. We are 95 walkers strong. We meet every morning at 8 o'clock and we walk and we get healthy and happier. So, and I just love the communities as much as I can give. I will.
Okay. And are there any insights that these activities have given you that could help you as a board member?
Absolutely. Well, I believe it or not, I am a leader inside. I enjoy taking charge when necessary, where it's important. Again, this walking club was up to me to start and keep it going. I'm doing that. Just the experience of all the committees in Lake of the Woods are just the people, so much talent, amazing backgrounds. They give their free time, their retirements to this community. It's just so impressive to me. And I just absolutely love working with them.
All right, very good. Thank you. Bill.
I've always been involved in my local community organizations. I mentioned before, I was heavily involved in the Connecticut Society of Civil Engineers, where I lived there, and I was on the board through the president. I was one of the founding members of an environmental professional organization, wrote the Constitution and bylaws for that. I was heavily involved with the Lean Construction Institute and helping to find better ways to do construction. And since I've been here at the Lake of the Woods, my involvement has been with the Lake of the Woods Lions. I encourage you to talk to any Lion and ask them about Bill Kay. I've been involved. Since I got involved with the Lions, actually, I've been on 14 different committees, finance and they were administrative committees as well as community service activities. If it's the food pantry or the yard sale, I was involved. Also created what I called random acts of kindness, things outside of what we do. If somebody is in need, we'll find a way to help them solve that. As far as what I learned from all of this, having all of these, working with all of these organizations and committees, is what I believe is servant leadership. When I started my presidency at the Lions, my first meeting with the board, the 13 board members, and we have 35 different committees, and I assigned, used to be that the president and the vice president oversaw all the committees. I assigned committees to each of the board members, and I told them, I believe in servant leadership. My job is to do everything I can to make you successful. Your job is to do everything you can to make your committee chairs and your committees successful. And the committee chairs, their job is to do everything they can to make the committee successful. And that's what I'll do here. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And Leif.
So as I mentioned, my wife and I have been down here since 2019. And just about the time we were starting to get an understanding of what was going on in the community is when the pandemic hit. So as that started to tail off a little bit, we were able to get involved in the committee activity. And as I mentioned earlier, I started out as an alternate on the lake and was very quickly promoted to the chair of the Lakes Committee. In doing that, I've worked very extensively and very closely with the M&E committee, including going out and doing site surveys with them as we develop new asset and improvement project requests. The Lakes Committee goes out and does an annual assessment where we physically go out and touch everything that the association owns and operates that is adjacent to the lake. And we identify issues, provide a spreadsheet of all of those back to the association management. And they then begin the corrective actions to put everything right. If you're at one of the marinas and there's a horn missing off one of the cleats, we've probably already identified it and it's on a list to get resolved. And we're now have quarterly follow-up scheduled with the GM to give us progress updates on how they're working to remedy the issues that we find. I also participate in the GM's biweekly safety and security meeting where we go over current events and future planned events and their potential impacts on the community from a security perspective, from a safety perspective, things that are going to go on in the lake, all of that we take a look at. You know, in terms of insights, talking with members and physically getting out, you know, in the Lakes Committee, I'm a kayaker, I'm a paddleboarder, I'm a sailor. I'm out on the lake looking at what's going on both lakes on a regular basis. And for me, that's the best way to understand what's going on is to get out and be involved, talk to people, interact, and get their sense of what's working and what's not.
Very good. Thank you. And Bill, did we touch on insights? Did you touch on insights that you have? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure that I didn't slight you again. We're going to the clubhouse after this. We will go to Vasa now and ask you if you, this is actually an interesting question because, you know, we're all talking about being involved and we all want to see people, you know, people get involved who maybe aren't already. So do you have a plan for getting ideas and opinions from members or getting them active in clubs and committees?
Oh, that's a great question. And whoever put that forth, thank you so much. Yes, again, we are a community of 4,000 homes and what I would say at least 8,000 residents. Amongst us, some of the most amazing talents, retirees, maybe part-time people who are still working part-time with so much knowledge, teachers, engineers, you name it, military. I don't want to miss out on anyone, so I'm just going to say all the very talented people, residents here. I call on all to give your beloved community a little bit of your time, add your experience to our projects. We count on you, we need you input. The committees need your knowledge and expertise. Please come and join. Thank you.
Okay, Bill, do you have any ideas for how to solicit ideas and opinions from members and possibly get them involved?
Yes. Over the past couple of months, I've been to all 24 of our committee meetings. And one of the things that really stands out is the lack of members attending committee meetings. It seems like the candidates are the only guests there. I think we need to find a way of and have an active recruiting program of getting members involved with the committee. We need to highlight committees if we once a month or once an issue in Lake Currents, highlighted committees, what they do and invite people. We did it on social media, highlighted our committees and challenge our committee members to bring a friend to your committee, bring a friend to your committee day. Okay, get people to, when you find out that somebody has an interest in something, get them to come to the committee and get them to see what the committees are doing. There's a tremendous amount of work. I'm so impressed with the work that our committee members do. And I know if other members attended, they'd want to jump, that many of them would want to jump in as well. So we need to find a program, I think, a way of highlighting the great work that our committees are doing and getting people to actually show up and experience it.
Very good. Thank you. Leif.
Many of you follow a couple of the different social media websites that focus on life here at Lake of the Woods. And this is a topic of conversation out there right now. And there's actually a poll ongoing trying to determine how many folks would participate if meetings and such were held at different hours. And I know historically here, that's been tried. Lakes Committee, for example, we hold our meetings at 7 o'clock on a Monday evening because we had members who worked full-time and that worked best for them to be able to attend. It did, however, make it difficult for me to bring in staff because that's outside of their normal work hours. So we'd have to do special coordination with the GM to make that happen. It's one of the reasons why I started getting active. One of the reasons why I'm running for the board right now is we don't have enough people participating. Maybe there's, and I'll be generous, 300-400 folks in this whole community that pretty much work at the good works that take place, from the association to the committees, to the church, to the Lions, the garden club, put all those together. And we really need more people to be able to do that. In my interview, I talked about looking to find ways to give recognition to committees and committee members and things around attendance, looking at potentially doing events at clubhouse or fairways or at the golf course to reward people who are actively participating, potentially looking at something like an amenity card or some type of a drawing that would be focused on people who are actively putting back into our community, not just taking out. And it's a challenge. We've got a lot of folks, we've got a multi-generational community now, and there are a lot of people who are working full-time trying to raise their children and understand it can be a challenge. But if we don't start working to do that, we're going to run out of folks that are here and committed to improving our community. And I just don't want to see that happen.
Excellent. Thank you. And Cliff, your thoughts, please?
The answer to the simple question is, do I have a plan? The plan, no, I don't have a plan. Simply because I think to get more people on committees, we have to do something called mining. We need to get committees themselves trying to get members to join their own committees. I know we've held some things. I think we had a committee fair at the clubhouse and we got a couple of members from that, and that worked well, but that's a couple of members. The ECC actively recruits members for their committees. And I know many of the committee chairs try to do the same thing, but it's those kind of efforts where you touch on somebody that has an interest in what you're doing and you get them to at least come to a committee meeting. You may not join it right away, but at least come to it and look at it, and then maybe they will join it later on. I don't think there's a grand scheme that anyone can do to get people to just massively come out and join committees. I think it's individual effort trying to talk people into joining a committee. I know when I do those newcomer socials, I just listen to what they say. And if they say they have a certain skill or a certain thing, I suggest, well, you could join this committee or that committee. But you have to be careful. It is a newcomers meeting and you don't want to overwhelm them with requests to join committees. But that's the way you get people to join committees here. You talk to them, you show what they can do or how they can contribute. And many times they will join and sometimes they won't. Holding committee meetings at different hours. Leif is right. It's been tried before. They tried it on board meetings. I mean, the first time we did it, it was great. And after that, it was business as usual. People have their own lives and they have their own interests. And if occasionally when you're talking to somebody and you hear something they're interested in, and you can refer them to a committee, even if it's not your own, or even if you're not on a committee, then suggest that they go to a meeting at least and see what's there and make a decision about joining the committee.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So let's see, I guess we are coming back to Bill. Right? Yeah. 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 So, this was touched on by one of you earlier, but I think it would be very interesting to hear all of your takes on this. It was mentioned that the road fees are drying up. Some of our sources of revenue are changing. Are there any new or improved sources of revenue that you would consider especially to help reduce cost is what the question is.
I think it's the answer to our problem is a combination of adjusting our revenue stream and finding ways of doing things better, faster, cheaper. There's where I mentioned before that the golf course is making more money this year than was expected. They're doing very well there. So that's an increased revenue stream. I mentioned before the clubhouse. I think we've got 6 more events that are booked beyond what the original budget was for this year alone. That we're only a few months into. So hopefully the clubhouse will make more money than budgeted, and we can increase the revenue there. Is there more that we can do with our other amenities? They're doing a number of events at the Equestrian Center. So can we look at those as revenue streams that for increase for the future? And then all of the things that we do, can we look at? We should always be looking at, because I believe, and I was taught continuous improvement. One of the things that I used to do for my clients as a management consultant was to train all of their staff throughout their company on how to always look at what they do and is there a better way that it can be done? Can I improve it? Because everything that you do, you can find better ways in the future to do it. So I think it's a combination of finding these new revenue streams and trying to look at where we can save money and do things in a more efficient way.
Excellent. Leif, any innovative ideas for creating sources of revenue that could reduce costs?
Sure. From my business background, what I'm going to be looking at very closely is the profitability and how our amenities are run from a business perspective. And of course, the challenge is they are amenities. They were not designed to be generating large profit margins for the association. It's not how they were envisioned. But that doesn't mean that we can't work to make each one more profitable and try and raise the number that either break even or actually get into the black each year higher. We're also going to have to look at how we bid out our contracts and try and get the best value for the money that we actually do spend. There are some things that appear, as quick hits, right? We've got fairways and we've got the industrial golf league that comes in. If we put the patio on there, would more of these folks stay and spend money at fairways if we had more seating and we had sunshades? Same thing with sunshades on the deck at the clubhouse. So I think there are small things that we can do that are going to help improve profitability. As I mentioned earlier, though, we're going to have to look for something that's actually going to move the needle when we're looking at the offset of the new construction fees, what people may remember as the old road fees. And we may have to look at assessing some kind of a cost associated with real estate transfers, as an example, something that is going to occur in here as we get built out. Homes are going to be sold. We probably need to take a look at that as one potential option for a way to generate additional revenue to start to build, recover from the loss of the NCR funds.
Thank you. Right on time. Cliff, can you discuss your innovative
Additional
thoughts on this?
revenue. Well, of course, we don't really want our amenities to the business people in here. Please don't throw anything at me. We don't want them to actually make a profit. We want them to get close to break even. Because if you make a profit, you have to pay taxes on it. So but we do need to try to get closer to break even, and we're not there now. So what do we do about that? I mean, Ryan won't pass on cost to members here compared to costs outside because it's amenity. It's an amenity. He does what he can to increase, the availability of a menu so that people will come to the clubhouse and eat there. I do think that there's a good argument to be made about the patio at Fairways. And I'd like to see that move forward a bit. But again, that's a project we have to look at coming up. But I think we can make some money there too. But I don't see a lot of other revenue streams per se, unless we're talking about increasing user fees. And I'm not sure that that's really the way to go. That's sort of like an increase the assessment and in the assessment by any other name. But we might have to do that now then, because we want to keep our fee schedule moving at least every year to the inflation rate to keep up with that. So there's really no brand new streams, I think, to get revenue. We have to take what we have and refine it and make it more profitable, but not make a lot of money. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Cliff. Vasa, what are your thoughts, please?
Well, we have had 2 difficult years. We're still, of course, in difficult times still, not recovered quite yet. And who knows, will it be next year, the year after we will recover? So we have to try to control our spending as well as our HOA dues. As far as a way to bring more revenue to the community, well, there ought to be some discussions, like we've had several years ago about our golf course. We opened our golf course years ago. I'm not sure, maybe 7 years ago, something like that. 2-way tournaments and players from the outside. They come in and they have a tournament, they enjoy a drink, a meal. Perhaps they even stop at the clubhouse and have a meal there as well. And this is a discussion. This is not my stand or anything. This is, should we be entertaining a thought of opening our clubhouse to the outside guests for a special occasion, celebratory dinner or something like that? Them dropping $150 a dinner with the view of the lake, maybe a nice idea. Would it help us as a community to keep our costs down? Maybe. It's a discussion. I'm not the one to make that decision. Thank you.
All right, very good. Well, I just want to say that this has been an excellent conversation this afternoon. And I thank our 4 brave souls for running for the board. And I think they deserve a little acknowledgement. Very good. So before we wrap this up, I have been asked to remind everyone that there are ballots, which I've written all over to keep track of you. There are ballots here for the board for the board elections. They are right back at the table. You can fill one out now and drop it in the box. You can also phone vote now or electronically vote. And the information on those is in the Lake Currents, where you can also find a printed ballot, by the way, that you can drop off or, at the Holcomb Center. And so we just encourage everybody to vote for 3 of these 4 fine candidates. And thank you all very much for coming. It's been a lovely afternoon.